Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here in the live studios at Radha Lane, ISKCON of Houston. Just down the walkway to Sri Sri Radha Neelamadhava's wonderful temple, beautiful transcendental forms. So here we are again, reading the Srimad-Bhagavatam together, which is the best thing you can do in the universe, to read about Krishna with devotees of Krishna. This is it. This is the pinnacle of activity, the best thing that you can do. Okay, so let's hear what Sanatana Goswami says about that, shall we? The glorification of Srimad-Bhagavatam by Sanatana Goswami. I think I mentioned this the other day, but in Chaitanya Charitamrita, at the end of the Madhya Lila, there's the chapters that form the teachings or describe the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, and it's like hundreds of pages. By far the biggest section of the whole book. So this is Sanatana Goswami glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastri Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ragnarya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar of the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalipantoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Padaya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguru Madmahadana Madnishsaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my servitude, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu salutadayin adinichochitakrada anamunchagada chinmam premnarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're in the 5th canto, 20th chapter, studying the structure of the universe, beginning with text 36. Okay, we've been hearing about the different varshas, which are like islands floating in the ocean of air of the universe, and now we've come to a mountain at the end of these series of islands and oceans. Text 36. Between the lands inhabited by living entities and those that are uninhabited stands the great mountain which separates the two, and which is therefore celebrated as Loka Loka. Text 37. By By the supreme will of Krishna, the mountain known as Loka Loka has been installed as the outer border of the three worlds, Bhurloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swargaloka, to control the rays of the sun through the universe. All the luminaries from the sun up to Dhruvaloka distribute their rays throughout the three worlds, but only within the boundary formed by this mountain. Because it is extremely high, extending even higher than Dhruvaloka, it blocks the rays of the luminaries, which therefore can never extend beyond it. Purport. When we speak of Lokatraya, we refer to the three primary planetary systems, Bhu, Bhuva, and Swa, into which the universe is divided. Surrounding these planetary systems are the 8 directions, namely east, west, north, south, northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest. Loka Loka mountain has been established as the outer boundary of all the lokas to distribute the rays of the sun and other luminaries equally throughout the universe. The vivid description of how the rays of the sun are distributed throughout the different planetary systems of the universe is very scientific. Shukadeva Goswami described these universal affairs to Maharaj Parikshit as he had heard about them from his predecessor. He explained these facts 5,000 years ago, but the knowledge existed long, long before, because Shukadeva Goswami received it through disciplic succession. Because this knowledge is accepted through the disciplic succession, it is perfect. The history of modern scientific knowledge, on the contrary, does not go back more than a few hundred years. Therefore, even if modern scientists do not accept the other factual presentations of Srimad-Bhagavatam, how can they deny the perfect astronomical calculations that existed long before they could imagine such things? There is so much information to gather from Srimad-Bhagavatam. Modern scientists, however, have no information of other planetary systems, and indeed are hardly conversant with the planet on which we are now living. Text 38. Learned scholars who are free from mistakes, illusions, and propensities to cheat have thus described the planetary systems and their particular symptoms, measurements, and locations. With great deliberation, they have established the truth that the distance between Sumeru and the mountain known as Loka Loka is 1/4 of the diameter of the universe. In other words, 125 million yojanas, 1 billion miles. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given accurate astronomical information about the location of Loka Loka mountain, the movements of the sun globe, and the distance between the sun and the circumference of the universe. However, the technical terms used in the astronomical calculations given by the Jyotir Veda are difficult to translate into English. Therefore, to satisfy the reader, we may include the exact Sanskrit statement given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which records exact calculations regarding universal affairs. And this is a long prose Sanskrit, which I'm not going to try to read. Text 39, but he gives these things to add the weight of authority to everything that's spoken in his purports. Text 39, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was expert enough to translate these things, translated the Surya Sudanta and the Siddhanta Shiromani and other texts which, if you put it all together, gives you a proper picture of the cosmology, the universe, according to the Vedas. Text 39. On the top of Loka Loka mountain are 4 Gajapatis, the best of elephants, which were established in the 4 directions by Lord Brahma, the supreme spiritual master of the entire universe. The names of those elements are Rishabha, Pushkarachuda, Vamana, and Aparajita. They are responsible for maintaining the planetary systems of the universe. Text 40. Haribol Sarva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of all transcendental opulences and the master of the spiritual sky. He is the Supreme Person, Bhagavan, the super soul of everyone. The demigods, led by Indra, the king of heaven, are entrusted with seeing to the affairs of the material world, to benefit all living beings in all the varied planets, and to increase the power of those elephants and of the demigods. The Lord manifests himself on top of that mountain in a spiritual body, uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. Surrounded by his personal expansions and assistants, like Vishwaksena, he exhibits all his perfect opulences, such as religion and knowledge, and his mystic powers, such as Anima, Laghima, and Mahima. He is beautifully situated, and he is decorated by the different weapons in his four hands. Text 41. The various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Narayana and Vishnu, are beautifully decorated with different weapons. The Lord exhibits those forms to maintain all the varied planets created by his personal potency, Yogamaya. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 4:6, Lord Krishna says, Sambhavam Yatmamayaya, I appear by my internal potency. The word Atmamaya refers to the Lord's personal potency, Yogamaya. After creating both the material world and spiritual world through Yogamaya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally maintains them by expanding himself in different categories as the Vishnu Murtis and the demigods. He maintains the material creation from beginning to end, and he personally maintains the spiritual world. 42. My dear king, outside Lokaloka mountain is the tract of land known as Alokavarsha, which extends for the same breadth as the area within the mountain. In other words, 125 million yojanas, 1 billion miles. Beyond Alokavarsha is the destination of those who aspire for liberation from the material world. It is beyond the jurisdiction of the material modes of nature, and therefore it is completely pure. Lord Krishna took Arjuna through this place to bring back the sons of the Brahmana. Text 43. The sun is situated vertically in the middle of the universe, in the area between Burloka and Bhuvarloka, which is called Antariksha, outer space. The distance between the sun and the circumference of the universe is 25 koti yojanas, 2 billion miles. Purport. The word koti means 10 million, and yojana is 8 miles. The diameter of the universe is 50 koti yojanas, 4 billion miles. Therefore, since the sun is in the middle of the universe, the distance between the sun and the edge of the universe is calculated to be 25 koti yojanas, 2 billion miles. Text 44. The sun god is also known as Vairaja, the total material body for all living entities. Because he entered this dull egg of the universe at the time of creation, he is also called Martanda. He is also known as Hiranyagarbha, because he received his material body from Hiranyagarbha, Lord Brahma. Purport. The post of Lord Brahma is meant for very highly elevated, spiritually advanced living beings. When such living beings are unavailable, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, expands himself as Lord Brahma. This takes place very rarely. Consequently, there are two kinds of Brahmas. Sometimes Brahma is an ordinary living entity, and at other times Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahma spoken of here is an ordinary living being. Whether Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or an ordinary living being, he is known as Vairaja Brahma and Hiranyagarbha Brahma. Therefore, the sun god is also accepted as Vairaja and Hiranyagarbha. Text 45. O king, the sun god and the sun planet divide all the directions of the universe. It is only because of the presence of the sun that we can understand what the sky, the higher planets, this world, and the lower planets are. It is also only because of the sun that we can understand which places are for material enjoyment, which are for liberation, which are hellish and subterranean. Text 46. All living entities, including demigods, human beings, animals, birds, insects, reptiles, creepers, and trees, depend upon the heat and light given by the sun god from the sun planet. Furthermore, it is because of the sun's presence that all living entities can see, and therefore he is called Drig Ishwara, the personality of Godhead presiding over sight. Purport. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, Surya Atma Atma Venopasya. The actual life and soul of all living entities within this universe is the sun. He is therefore Upasya, worshipable. We worship the sun god by chanting the Gayatri mantra, Om Pur Bhuva Swa Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Surya is the life and soul of this universe, and there are innumerable universes for which a sun god is the life and soul, just as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the life and soul of the entire creation. We have information that Vairaja, Hiranyagarbha, entered the great dull material globe called the sun. This indicates that the theory held by so-called scientists that no one lives there is wrong. Bhagavad Gita also says that Krishna first instructed Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam. Therefore the sun is not vacant. It is inhabited by the living entities, and the predominating deity is Vairaja, or Vivaswan. The difference between the sun and the earth is that the sun is a fiery planet, but everyone there has a suitable body and can live there without difficulty. Thus end the Bhagavatam, the purports of the 5th canto, 20th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Studying the Structure of the Universe. Okay, moving on, chapter 21, the movements of the sun. This chapter informs us of the movements of the sun. The sun is not stationary. It is also moving like the other planets. The sun's movements determine the duration of night and day. When the sun travels north of the equator, it moves slowly during the day and very quickly at night, thus increasing the duration of the daytime and decreasing the duration of night. Similarly, when the sun travels south of the equator, the exact opposite is true. The duration of the day decreases and the duration of night increases. When the sun enters Kartika Rashi, Cancer, and then travels to Singha Rashi, Leo, and so on, through Dhanu Rashi, Sagittarius, its course is called Dakshinayana, the southern way. And when the sun enters Makara Rashi, Capricorn, and thereafter travels through Kumbha Rashi, Aquarius, and so on, through Mithuna Rashi, Gemini, its course is called Uttarayana, the northern way. When the sun is in Mesha Rashi, Aries, and Tula Rashi, Libra, the duration of day and night are equal. On Manasotara mountain are the abodes of 4 demigods. East of Sumera mountain is Devadani, where King Indra lives, and south of Sumeru is Samyamani, the abode of Yamaraj, the superintendent of death. Similarly, west of Sumeru is Nimlochani, the abode of Varuna, the demigod who controls the water, and north of Sumeru is Vibhavari, where the demigod of the moon lives. Sunrise noon, sunset, and midnight occur in all these places because of the movements of the sun. Diametrically opposite the place where the sunrise takes place and the sun is seen by human eyes, the sun will be setting and passing away from human vision. Similarly, the people residing diametrically opposite the point where it is midday will be experiencing midnight. The sun rises and sets with all the other planets, headed by the moon and other luminaries. The entire Kala Chakra, or wheel of time, is established on the wheel of the sun god's chariot. This wheel is known as Samvatsara. The 7 horses pulling the chariot of the sun are known as Gayatri, Brihati, Ushnik, Jagati, Shishtu, Anushtu, and Pankti. They are harnessed by a demigod known as Arunadeva to a yoke 900,000 yojanas wide. Thus the chariot carries Adityadeva, the sun god. Always staying in front of the sun god and offering their prayers are 60,000 sages, known as Valikilyas. There are 14 Gandharvas, Apsaras, and other demigods who are divided into 7 parties who perform ritualistic activities every month to worship the super soul through the sun god according to different names. Thus the sun god travels through the universe for a distance of 95,100,000 yojanas, 760 billion, 800 million, 760 million, 800,000 miles at the speed of 16,004 miles every second, every moment. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, I have thus far described the diameter of the universe, 50 crores of yojanas, or 4 billion miles, and its general characteristics according to the estimations of learned scholars." Text 2. As a grain of wheat is divided into 2 parts, and one can estimate the size of the upper part by knowing that of the lower, so expert geographers instruct that one can understand the measurements of the upper part of the universe by knowing those of the lower part. The sky between the earthly sphere and heavenly sphere is called Antariksha, or outer space. It adjoins the top of the sphere of earth and the bottom of that of heaven. Text 3. In the midst of that region of outer space, Antariksha, is the most opulent sun, the king of all the planets that emanate heat, such as the moon. By the influence of its radiation, the sun heats the universe and maintains its proper order. It also gives light to help all living entities see, while passing toward the north, toward the south, or through the equator. In accordance with the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is said to move slowly, swiftly, or moderately, according to its movements in rising above, going beneath, or passing through the equator, and correspondingly coming in touch with various signs of the zodiac headed by Makara, Capricorn. Days and nights are short, long, or equal to one another. Purport. Lord Brahma prays in his Brahma Samhita, Yach Chakshur Esha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Sudamurtir Ashesha Tejaha Yas Yagyaya Brahmati Samprita Kala Chakro Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. Although the sun is described as Bhagavan, the most powerful, and although it is actually the most powerful planet within the universe, it nevertheless has to carry out the order of Govinda, Krishna. The sun god cannot deviate even an inch from the orbit designated to him. Therefore, in every sphere of life, the supreme order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is carried out. The entire material nature carries out his orders. However, we foolishly see the activities of material nature without understanding the supreme order and supreme person behind them. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Yakshena Prakriti, material nature carries out the orders of the Lord, and thus everything is maintained in an orderly way. Text 4. When the sun passes through Mesha, Aries, and Tula, Libra, the durations of night and day and night are equal. When it passes through the five signs headed by Rishabha, Taurus, the duration of the days increases until Cancer, and then it gradually decreases by half an hour each month until day and night again become equal in Libra. Text 5. When the sun passes through the five signs beginning with Vrishika, Scorpio, the duration of the nights decreases until Capricorn, and when gradually it increases month after month until day and night become equal in Aries. Text 6. Until the sun travels to the south, the days grow longer, and until it travels to the north, the nights grow longer. Text 7. Shukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, as stated before, the learned say that the sun travels over all sides of Manasotara mountain in a circle whose length is 95,100,000 yojanas, 760,800,000 miles. On Manasotara mountain, due east of Mount Sumeru, is a place known as Devadani, possessed by King Indra. Similarly, in the south is a place known as Samyamani, possessed by Yamaraj. In the west is a place known as Nimlochani, possessed by Varuna. And in the north is a place named Vibhavari, possessed by the moon god. Sunrise, midday, sunset, and midnight occur in all those places according to specific times, thus engaging all living entities in their various occupational duties and also making them cease such duties. Texts 8 and 9. The living entities residing on Sumeru mountain are always very warm, as at midday, because for them the sun is always overhead. Although the sun moves counterclockwise, facing the constellations, with Sumeru mountain on its left, it also moves clockwise and appears to have the mountain on its right, because it is influenced by the Dakshinavarta wind. People living in countries at points diametrically opposite to where the sun is first seen rising will see the sun setting. And if a straight line were drawn from a point where the sun is at midday, the people in countries at the opposite end of the line would be experiencing midnight. Similarly, if people residing where the sun is setting were to go to countries diametrically opposite, they would not see the sun in the same condition. Text 10. When the sun travels from Devadani, the residence of Indra, to Samyamani, the residence of Yamaraj, it travels 23,775,000 yojanas, 190,200,000 miles in 15 gatikas, 6 hours. Purport. The distance indicated by the word Sadikani is Pancha Vingshati Sahasradikani, or 25,000 yojanas. That plus 2.5 crores and 12.5 laksha of yojanas is the distance the sun travels between each two cities. This comes out to 23,775,000 yojanas, or 190,200,000 miles. The total orbit of the sun is 4 times that distance, or 95,100,000 yojanas. 760,800,000 miles. Text 11. From the residence of Yamaraj, the sun travels to Nimlochani, the residence of Varuna, and from there to Bibhavari, the residence of the moon god, and from there again to the residence of Indra. In a similar way, the moon, along with the other stars and planets, becomes visible in the celestial sphere, and then sets, and again becomes invisible. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 10:21, Krishna says, Nakshatranam aham shashi. Of stars, I am the moon. This indicates that the moon is similar to the other stars. The Vedic literature informs us that within the universe there is one sun, which is moving. The Western theory that all the luminaries in the sky are different suns is not confirmed in the Vedic literature, nor can we assume that these luminaries are the suns of other universes, for each universe is covered by various layers of material elements, and therefore, although the universes are clustered together, we cannot see from one universe to another. In other words, whatever we see is within this one universe. In each universe, there is one Brahma, and there are other demigods on other planets, but there is only one sun. Text 12. Thus the chariot of the sun god, which is Trayimaya, or worshipped by the worlds, by the words Om Bhur Bhuvak Swab, travels through the four residences mentioned above at the speed of 3,400,800 yojanas, or 27,206,400 miles in a muhurta. Text 13. The chariot of the sun god has only one wheel, which is known as Samvatsara. The 12 months are calculated to be its 12 spokes. The 6 seasons are the sections of its rim, and the 3 Chaturmasya periods are its 3-sectioned hub. One side of the axle carrying the wheel rests upon the summit of Mount Sumeru, and the other rests upon Manasodhara mountain. Affixed to the outer end of the axle, the wheel continuously rotates on Manasodhara mountain like the wheel of an oil pressing machine. Text 14. As in an oil pressing machine, the first axle is attached to a second axle, which is 1/4 as long, 3,937,500 yojanas, or 31,500,000 miles. The upper end of this second axle is attached to Dhruvaloka by a rope of wind. Text 15. My dear king, the carriage of sun god's chariot is estimated to be 3,600,000 yojanas, 28,800,000 miles long, and 1/4 as wide, 900,000 yojanas, or 7,200,000 miles. The chariot's horses, which are named after Gayatri and other Vedic meters, are harnessed by Arunadev to a yoke that is also 900,000 yojanas wide. This chariot continuously carries the sun god. Purport. In the Vishnu Purana, it is stated, Gayatri cha brihat yushnig jagati trishup evacha anushtup panktir it yuktash chandangshi hariyo ruvehe. The 7 horses yoked to the sun god's chariot are named Gayatri, Brihati, Ushnik, Jagati, Trishtup, Anushtup, and Pankti. These names of various Vedic meters designate the 7 horses that carry the sun god's chariot. Text 16. Although Arunadev sits in front of the sun god and is engaged in driving the chariot and controlling the horses, he looks backward toward the sun god. Purport. In the Vayu Purana, the position of the horses is described. Saptashvarupa Chandrangsi Vahante Vamato Ravim Chakrapaksha Nibaddhani Chakre Vaksha Samahitaha. Although Arunadev is in the front seat, controlling the horses, he looks back toward the sun god from his left. Text 17. There are 60,000 saintly persons named Valikilias, each the size of a thumb, who are located in front of the sun god and who offer him eloquent prayers of glorification. Text 18. Similarly, 14 other saints, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, and demigods, who are divided into groups of 2, assume different names every month and continuously perform different ritualistic ceremonies to worship the Supreme Lord as the most powerful demigod, Suryadev, who holds many names. Purport. In the Vishnu Purana it is said, Stuvanti Muniyak Suryam Gandharvair Giyate Pudaha Rityantop Saraso Yanti Suryasyanu Nishacharaha Vihanti Panagayakshay Kriyate Vishusangraha Valikilyas Tadaivanam Parivarya Samasate So Yam Saptaganak Surya Mandale Muni Satama Himoshna Vari Vrishtinam Hetutve Samayam Gataha. Worshipping the most powerful demigod Surya, the Gandharvas sing in front of him, the Apsaras dance before the chariot, and the Nishacharas follow the chariot. The Panagas decorate the chariot, the Yakshas guard the chariot, and the saints called the Valikilias surround the sun god and offer prayers. The 7 groups of 14 associates arrange the proper times for regular snow, heat, and rain throughout the universe. Text 19. My dear king, in his orbit through Boon Mandala, the sun god traverses a distance of 95,100,000 yojanas, 760,800,000 miles, at the speed of 2,000 yojanas and 2 kroshas, 16,004 miles in a moment. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 21st chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Movements of the Sun. The orbits of the planets. In this chapter, the orbits of the planets are described. According to the movements of the moon and other planets, all the inhabitants of the universe are prone to auspicious and inauspicious situations. This is referred to as the influence of the stars. The sun god, who controls the affairs of the entire universe, especially in regard to heat, light, seasonal changes, and so on, is considered an expansion of Narayana. He represents the 3 Vedas, Rig, Yajur, and Sama, and therefore he is known as Trayimaya, the form of Lord Narayana. Sometimes the sun god is also called Surya Narayana. The sun god has expanded himself in 12 divisions, and thus he controls the 6 seasonal changes and causes winter, summer, rain, and so on. Yogis and karmis follow the Varnashrama institution, who practice hatha or ashtanga yoga, or who perform Agnihotra sacrifices, worship Surya Narayana for their own benefit. The demigod Surya is always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Residing in outer space, which is in the middle of the universe, between Bhuloka and Bhuvarloka, the sun rotates through the time circle of the zodiac, represented by 12 rashis, or signs, and assumes different names according to the sign he is in. For the moon, every month is divided into 2 fortnights. Similarly, according to solar calculations, a month is equal to the time the sun spends in one constellation. 2 months constitute one season, and there are 12 months in a year. The entire area of the sky is divided into 2 halves, each representing an ayana, the course traversed by the sun within a period of 6 months. The sun travels, sometimes slowly, sometimes swiftly, and sometimes at a moderate speed. In this way it travels within the 3 worlds, consisting of the heavenly planets, the earthly planets, and outer space. These orbits are referred to by great learned scholars by the names Sanvatsara, Parivatsara, Idavatsara, Anuvatsara, and Vatsara. The moon is situated 100,000 yojanas above the rays of the sunshine. Day and night on the heavenly planets and Pitruloka are calculated according to its waning and waxing. Above the moon and by a distance of 300,000 yojanas are some stars, and above these stars is Shukra Graha, Venus, whose influence is always auspicious for the inhabitants of the entire universe. Above Shukra Graha, by 200,000 yojanas, is Buddha Graha, Mercury, whose influence is sometimes auspicious and sometimes inauspicious. Next, above Buddha Graha, by 200,000 yojanas, is Angaraka, Mars, which almost always has an unfavorable influence. Above Angaraka, by another 200 yojanas, is a planet called Brihaspati Graha, Jupiter, which is always very favorable for qualified brahmanas. Above Brihaspati Graha is the planet Shanaishchara, Saturn, which is very inauspicious, and above Saturn is a group of 7 stars occupied by great saintly persons who are always thinking of the welfare of the entire universe. These 7 stars circumambulate Dhruvaloka, which is the residence of Lord Vishnu within this universe. Text 1. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, "My dear Lord, you have already affirmed the truth that the supremely powerful sun god travels around Dhruvaloka with both Dhruvaloka and Mount Sumeru on its right. Yet at the same time, the sun god faces the signs of the zodiac and keeps Sumeru and Dhruvaloka on his left. How can we reasonably accept that the sun god proceeds with Sumeru and Dhruvaloka on both his left and right simultaneously?" I explained this the other day. Text 2. Sri Shukadeva Goswami clearly answered, when a potter's wheel is moving and small ants located on that big wheel are moving with it, one can see that their motion is different from that of the wheel, because they appear sometimes on one part of the wheel and sometimes on another. Similarly, the signs and constellations with Sumeru and Dhruvaloka on their right move with the wheel of time, and the ant-like sun and other planets move with them. The sun and planets, however, are seen in different signs and constellations at different times. This indicates that their motion is different from that of the zodiac and the wheel of time itself. Text 3. The original cause of the cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. When great saintly persons, fully aware of the Vedic knowledge, offered prayers to the Supreme Person, he descended to this material world in the form of the sun to benefit all the planets and purify fruitive activities. He divided himself into 12 parts and created seasonal forms, beginning with spring. In this way, he created the seasonal qualities, such as heat, cold, and so on. Text 4. According to the system of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas, people generally worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is situated as the sun god. With great faith, they worship the Supreme Personality as the Supersoul according to ritualistic ceremonies handed down in the 3 Vedas, such as Agnihotra and similar higher and lower fruitive acts, and according to the process of mystic yoga. In this way, they very easily attain the ultimate goal of life. Text 5. The sun god, who is Narayana, or Vishnu, the soul of all the worlds, is situated in outer space between the upper and lower portions of the universe. Passing through 12 months on the wheel of time, the sun comes in touch with 12 different signs of the zodiac and assumes 12 different names according to those signs. The aggregate of those 12 months is called a samvatsara, or an entire year. According to lunar calculations, 2 fortnights, one of the waxing moon and the other of the waning, form 1 month. That same period is 1 day and night for the planet Pitriloka. According to stellar calculations, a month equals 2 1/4 constellations. When the sun travels for 2 months, a season passes, and therefore the seasonal changes are considered parts of the body of the year. Text 6. Thus, the time the sun takes to rotate through half of outer space is called an ayana, or its period of movement in the north or in the south. Text 7. The sun god has 3 speeds: slow, fast, and moderate. The time he takes to travel entirely around the spheres of heaven, earth, and space at these 3 speeds is referred to by learned scholars by the 5 names: Samvatsara, Parivatsara, Idavatsara, Anuvatsara, and Vatsara. Purport. According to solar astronomical calculations, each year extends 6 days beyond the calendar year, and according to lunar calculations, each year is 6 days shorter. Therefore, because of the movements of the sun and moon, there is a difference of 12 days between the lunar and solar and lunar years. As the Samvatsara, Parivatsara, Idavatsara, Anuvatsara, and Vatsara pass by, 2 extra months are added within each 5 years. This makes a 6th Samvatsara. But because that Samvatsara is extra, the solar system is calculated according to the above 5 names. In India, they go by the lunar calendar. So on the earth, every 3 or 4 years, they add a month to the calendar. Above the rays of the sunshine, by a distance of 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles, is the moon, which travels at a speed faster than that of the sun. In 2 lunar fortnights, the moon travels through the equivalent of a samvatsara of the sun. In 2 1/4 days, it passes through a month of the sun, and in 1 day, it passes through a fortnight of the sun. Purport. When we take into account that the moon is 100,000 yojanas, or 800,000 miles above the rays of the sunshine, it is very surprising that the modern excursions to the moon could be possible. Since the moon is so distant, how could space vehicles go there is a doubtful mystery. Modern scientific calculations are subject to one change after another, and therefore they are uncertain. We have to accept the calculations of the Vedic literature. These Vedic calculations are steady. The astronomical calculations made long ago and recorded in the Vedic literature are correct even now. Whether the Vedic calculations or modern ones are better may remain a mystery for others. But as far as we're concerned, we accept the Vedic calculations to be correct. Text 9. When the moon is waxing, the illuminating portions of it increase daily, thus creating day for the demigods and night for the Pitas. When the moon is waning, however, it causes night for the demigods and day for the Pitas. In this way, the moon passes through each constellation of stars in 30 muhurtas, an entire day. The moon is the source of nectarian coolness that influences the growth of food grains, and therefore the moon god is considered the life of all living entities. He is consequently called Jiva, the chief living being within the universe. Text 10. Because the moon is full of all potentialities, it represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The moon is the predominating deity of everyone's mind, and therefore the moon god is called Manomaya. He is also called Anamaya because he gives potency to all herbs and plants, and he is called Amritamaya because he is the source of life for all living entities. The moon pleases the demigods, Pitas, human beings, animals, birds, reptiles, trees, plants, and other living entities. Everyone is satisfied by the presence of the moon. Therefore, the moon is also called Sarva Maya, all-pervading. And we'll stop there for today. Hare Krishna. When we used to, I think I was around when the term mind-blowing was, somebody coined it in the 60s, late 60s, I think. That blew my mind. It had something to do with something else at the time, but just the idea of hearing these things and how little we do understand or can understand. We're so limited, you know. And it's a fact. The one thing that really caught my attention this time I read it was the fact that the theories of the scientists are always changing, but the Vedic sounds are not changing. They're consistent. They stay the same all the time. Therefore, if you really want to know what's going on, you have to take the trouble to learn this description. It's not easy. It's very difficult to understand it, to enter into it and be able to visualize it and see how it all works together. Very difficult. Okay, now we've come to our favorite time. Our techie just ran out the door with some strange look on her face. I don't know where she went. Hare Krishna. She's got something to do. So, okay, you can take over. See if we got any.
I don't see any questions.
Okay. Anybody ready to venture into this arena?
It says, there's one comment. It says, end of chapter 20.
Oh, end of chapter 20. Oh, that was a long time ago.
Vilasa
Manjari.
Yeah, they asked if they can ask a question if there's time afterward.
Oh,
or, I guess.
I already answered that yesterday. What was it?
She said, if there's time after questions on today's reading, can I ask a question?
Yes. But that's after chapter 20.
Oh, yeah, that came next. Somebody else asked about chapter 20.
Oh, so that came next. So that's now. That's present.
Yeah.
Okay. Vilas Manjari, you're welcome to answer your question anytime. Hare Krishna. In the meantime, we're sitting here with some deer in the headlights looking faces that just heard, just a little bit of the structure of the universe. And it's pretty, as I was about to say, mind-blowing. Those are our minds.
Reach out and touch what they say you can never see. Reach out and touch what they say you can never be. It was an artist that made this song. He just opened my mind. It's taking me back to what I was reading.
Well, Jimi Hendrix, he had one of his album covers was the picture of the universal form, which is described, and his face in the middle of it. So he got some ideas from it, but they were a little distorted by whatever he was on at the time. Yeah, but these things can only be understood when you're sober. You can actually only understand actual knowledge when you're sober. You can't understand things when we're already intoxicated by the material energy. We're thinking we're not the body, someone comes in the room and says, "Hi, I am Barack Obama," we'll say, "Okay, see you later," and we'll put him in an institution or something. But, so we're thinking that man's crazy, but actually none of us know who we are, and therefore we're all nuts until we find out who we are. Anyway, that's a gradation of understanding. The first part of it we're kind of beginning to grasp. We're not actually what we thought we were. And that we're not the body. We're beginning to grasp a little deeper after so many years. And that we're a servant of the Supreme is becoming clearer and clearer. And there's another level of realization in which we can know what our relationship is and what our service is in the spiritual world in relationship with Krishna. That's the goal. And then to go there and do that service. That's what we're all here for. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want, whether we know it or not. Yes, Bhakti Doug. I anticipated that Bhakti Doug would have some intelligent questions, since he's highly educated and inquisitive.
I thank you, Maharaj. I was just wondering, so the sun glowed until the sun god enters into it. It's just a dull ball of matter.
Well, it happens simultaneously.
Okay, the creation of it. And
Yeah,
and
it's
entering.
described simultaneously.
Okay.
But when it's described that when Garbhodakshai Vishnu enters into each universe, the coverings have been covered or made, but there's nothing going inside the universe yet. It's kind of like in the mother's womb, there's all the ingredients that are there to create the body, but nothing happens unless there's a soul that enters. So when Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the Supreme Soul, because he's the soul of the universe, and then he expands himself to another place in the universe, and from there he expands into the hearts of all living entities, and he becomes the soul of all the living beings. So you've got Mahavishnu, who is the soul of the whole cosmic manifestation, which means all the universes. Then you've got Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he's the soul of each individual universe. And then you've got Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who is the soul of all the souls, of all the living beings. And he enters into the heart of every living being. So in this way, Krishna is actually all-pervasive. He's everywhere. So the description is when Garbhodakshai first enters into that egg-like form, it's dark, there's no light. He brings in the light. I mean, we accept the Bible, and then the Lord said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So we accept that. It's just that they don't know enough details to put it together in such a way as to convince, educated, scientifically educated people nowadays. And therefore people are losing faith in it and they're going away from it. But then when he comes in, then one of the first things that happens is the sun comes and illuminates.
Okay.
And then it's structured. Then Lord Brahma comes and the structure comes into being. So that's why Surya Narayan is called, it's like an incarnation of Krishna who's come to give the light. The light, it's actually a reflection of the light that comes from Krishna. In the spiritual world, every form is self-luminous. And the sun in each universe is a reflected form, injected into that darkness.
It's like, this is like, this book right here is like, oh my God, it's like,
You got
it's
that.
like
You
that.
got that right.
It's like, man, I'm glad to be here because like, I don't even know what to say. It's just, I'm seeing so much where I'm like, it's breaking out other religions like crazy.
Yeah.
Like crazy, like real crazy.
Yeah. It's all coming from the same place.
Yeah. It's going back.
ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, follow-up question from Bhakta Doug.
Yeah, so are I know it said, I know we read the other day that the moon is producing light of its own, but are these other luminaries, like these other stars, are they just reflecting the sun?
They're reflecting the
sun's
sun.
light? Okay.
They're reflecting the sun, the light
Okay.
of the sun. But the moon is also reflecting the light of the sun.
Oh,
But it
okay.
has this other dimension that gives it a cooling effect.
Hmm. Okay. Cool, thanks.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Krishna.
We started the Madhya Lila today, just a public announcement. Oh, we got something?
The one,
This is Vilas Manjari.
yes.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, regarding yesterday's question, thank you so much for your answer. I was so happy to hear this answer. I had wondered about it for a long time. Can you tell me where I can find references for this information, that the form of the soul is atomized when it enters the material world, and it is like a sponge that is wet and dry?
You can, well, where I've heard this, I haven't read all the Vedas, but Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu has, and I worked very closely with him for 5 years, helping him to edit the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And during that time, he gave us this, and you know, there are lectures that he gave on the Bhagavatam in which he quotes the Puranas, in which this example is given. But I can't give you the exact reference because I haven't, it's too vast for me, I'm not a Vedic scholar. But I do know it is true because I heard it from Gopi, who was a completely honest person, and he heard it from the source. That's all I can tell you. Maybe someday when you come to Govardhan or visiting, if you bring a pen drive, I can give you 700 lectures of Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu, which will explain many things that you cannot imagine. But it's not that we can know everything. It's not that any one of us can know everything. Only one person can know everything, and that's Krishna. Our capacity to know is limited. But by the grace of Krishna, we can know what we need to know to go back to Godhead. And if we surrender to Krishna completely, then and become a representative of Krishna in that sense, then he gives us the knowledge that we need whenever we need it, even though we don't necessarily ourselves know everything like Krishna knows everything. But we are given the knowledge we need to answer the questions and satisfy and help others progress in spiritual development and spiritual realization.
She says,
Well, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Dr. Janki. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good?
How's
Good.
everybody?
Good to see you.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. You're a busy person.
Yeah.
You've got things to do, people to take care of. Yeah.
Thank you.
the last one, Jerry Dasi says, thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Vilas Manjari, for your lovely question. She came to Govardhan. I don't know if anyway, I might have mentioned it, but maybe not everyone was here. She's from Australia, and she's been watching every day for a whole year. And she's been inspired to take up the hearing and chanting, and now she's starting her own reading groups, and she's a teacher. I'm not sure which age group she teaches, but she's a teacher. And she's just a very nice person, very nice devotee, very sincere. Everything comes from sincerity. Everything comes from sincere hearing. Means, you know, to be honest enough to admit that we don't know, and then hear submissively from someone that does. And that's the way we get transcendental knowledge, and it's the way we can actually eventually become fixed in transcendental consciousness. But that doesn't mean that any of us can become God. No one can become God. but we can have access to God through His mercy by sincere devotional service done without desire for the fruits for ourselves or the tendency to speculate and guess about things that we don't really know about. Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu is one of the best examples of anybody I've ever met as to a person who was completely honest. He was vastly learned. He read all the Puranas, all the Vedas, all the Upanishads in the original Sanskrit. He was vastly learned. And yet, when you ask him a question that he didn't know, he would just say, I don't know, but I'll research it and get back to you. And his translation of the Srimad-Bhagavatam was just stunning. Plus, the purport, or the commentary, which is called Digdarshani, by Sanatana Goswami, of his own work, his verse by verse commentary of his own work. It's the only commentary like that in all the Vedic, of all the Goswamis' literatures, of all the 6 Goswamis. He's the only one who wrote a verse-to-verse commentary of his work. That's how important it is. And as good as they were, they would allow their colleagues to edit their work sometimes. I'll read you a sample, okay? From the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which I did before, but I'll read a little bit. We have a few minutes left. First I have to get there. Just give me a minute. Oh, maybe I can go over here. Maybe it's already there. It is. What do you know? Okay, so, oops. This is a description of, I have it up on my, could you run into my desk and get the iPad
Yeah, absolutely.
quickly?
We did get another question also.
Oh, okay.
I read
While
some.
you go, then Patrick can read the question. Read it through the speaker, through the there you go.
Alright. Dear Srila,
Who's it from?
oh, Rati Manjari.
From Rati. Haribol Rati.
Dear
She's over there in Amsterdam having one festival day after another. President's Day or King's Day. King's Day. Go ahead.
Dear Srila Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. You just said something to the like of that we are here to prepare for taking up our service to Krishna in the spiritual world. Sometimes I wonder about that. This is probably an example of what you just talked about, that we can't know everything, but I will venture ahead. Sometimes I have heard that someone has a particular service there, for example, fanning Krishna. To my mundane mind, this seems kind of limited, that we could be happy doing one particular service, even if it is to Krishna. Could you please elaborate on that? It feels like I am asking a risky question here, which exposes my
It's not
ignorance.
risky. It's not risky. It's just kind of unidimensional. Because in the spiritual world, there is no time and space. You know, in the spiritual world, you don't get tired of things. No, you still have movement. There's
No,
still everything's going
I was
on.
thinking every second of it's brand new, and you're like seeing it as a new.
Well, it's like, we think in terms of time and space, therefore we're thinking in terms of time, and therefore we can't understand this. There's no way in your conditioned state that you can understand this. But the words that have been explained to us by the personalities who were there is this. Dwaraka was fanning Krishna, and he became so ecstatic that he began to faint, and he almost lost hold of the fan, and then he checked his ecstasy to be able to fan and continue to fan, because the satisfaction you get in the act of fanning is greater than the ecstasy that you get. I don't know if that explains it, but I don't know if you can understand what I just said. It's not so easy.
Can you say it one more time?
I don't know.
Yes, it means that we're not doing devotional service for us. So when you think, well, wouldn't that be boring? That means you're doing it for you. But when you do something for Krishna, and Krishna is satisfied with it, you get so much ecstasy that you can't deal with it. But you get so much happiness from just doing the service that you check your own ecstasy so that you continue to do that service. That's how wonderful devotional service is. We have no frame of reference to be able to understand what that means. But that's what it means. Devotional service is not for us. But as long as we're still thinking in terms of the body and mind and what's good for us, then you can't understand how it is that you can be completely ecstatic, because it pleases Krishna. Everyone has different services in the spiritual world, just like everyone has different services here. In Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, there were some devotees who were so poor and seemingly insignificant, but they were deeply enriched with love for Lord Chaitanya. So the thing that makes it is love. Here, time is moving everything. We're forced. We've been hearing about the sun and the time, Samvatsara, how time, the movements of the planets and the sun force us to rise and get up and go to sleep and do all these things that we do. We're being forced by time. But in the spiritual world, there is no time. But there are a sequence of events, there are relationships. Even the sun seems to go up and go down and all those things, but it's not being forced by time. Everything is done there out of love for Krishna. Everyone and everything is doing what they're doing out of love for Krishna. Therefore, whatever their service is, they're completely overwhelmed with satisfaction. And that satisfaction is increasing at every second, and it never stops. So as long as we're thinking in terms of the body and the mind, we won't be able to understand how, and it's not that there's one person that sits there and does, fanning, and that's all he does either. All the personalities in the spiritual world have all kinds of services that they do for Krishna. But some of them like to do particular services because that's what they like to do, because that's who they are. That's what their service is, and they become completely satisfied.
She asked another question on it.
Mm.
She says, does that mean that as long as we love, we keep, or we can keep doing the same thing?
Here again, it's material calculation.
What she said? What was the question?
Read it, you can say the question again. Just the train is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does that mean that as long as we feel love, we keep doing the same thing?
No, of course not. You're still thinking in terms of yourself.
Yeah, material.
We can't conceive what love is. here we have what we think is love here is affection for some particular thing or person or event or place, you know, that we're particularly attracted to or attached to. But we can't keep that affection forever because it goes. But in the spiritual world, all the forms are eternal. There's no deterioration, there's no time, there's no dust and deterioration of old age and things like that. So it's not that if I have love, therefore I can be satisfied doing one thing. That's a material calculation. It has the love that promotes or inspires us to do what we do with Krishna, do our service with Krishna, is beyond our conception. It's beyond what we think is affection here. Because it's not for us at all. It's for Krishna. But it's not that, see, that's what we're thinking. Oh, that means if I love, then I can just do one thing all the time and be satisfied? It's material calculation. There's unlimited engagements and activities and variety in the spiritual world, because the spiritual world is the source of the material world. So whatever varieties we see here are in the spiritual world only in reality. The varieties here are caused by the interaction of time, the material elements, and our individual consciousness, and Krishna's consciousness. So there, the soul is embodied. I was thinking about it the other day when we answered that one question about, you know, in the spiritual world, there's no need for a super soul, because there's no difference between the soul and the body. Now we're embodied soul, so the super soul is so kind, he comes and he sits next to the soul. Therefore, in the Upanishads, it's described that the body is like a tree, and there's two birds sitting in the tree. One of the birds is interested in the fruits of the tree, that means the senses and the objects and all these things. And the other bird is not interested in the fruits, is just witnessing and sanctioning. So it is said that Krishna is bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest. So he's bigger than the biggest in the sense that he is beyond the size of the cosmic manifestation, and he's smaller than the smallest in the sense of the individual soul. So that he doesn't have to get inside the individual soul. That's smaller. He can do that, but he comes next to the soul, inside the body, and sanctions and witnesses. But in the spiritual world, there's no need for the super soul to remind the soul what they're supposed to do. Every soul in the spiritual world knows exactly what to do without education, without being told, spontaneously, out of spontaneous love. So when you're when you're in spontaneous love, you don't think like that. Oh, I want a fan, so, you know, if I love you enough, can I just fan you and do nothing else? Maybe. I mean, I'm not trying to say that there's a limitation. Maybe if that's what you want to do for Krishna, and Krishna wants you to do that, and he's satisfied, maybe. But it's not like we're thinking, you know, oh, isn't this boring? Krishna, can I do something else? You know, it's not like that. There's so many things going on in the spiritual world. It's just like here, except that everything's being done out of love, and the relationships and everything are eternal. That's the difference. And when we try to figure it out with our mundane intelligence, we can't. So therefore we have to stay here until we stop trying to figure it out with our mundane intelligence. But how? So then what is the process? That's the next question.
Yes.
So what is the process? The process is to continue to hear the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar Devotion, all the way through, and then again, and again, and again, yes. And as you do that, and as your mind and heart and senses become purified by taking nothing but Krishna Prasadam, by chanting and dancing ecstasies in front of the deities and worshipping the deities, and associating with devotees, especially. I was going to bring up that point, but anyway, I got into another track. So then, as you do that, then there comes, along that spectrum of time, when you're doing it, there comes a time when there is a natural and special attraction for a particular pastime or a particular personality in Krishna's pastimes. And that may be an indication of your position in the spiritual world, or where you would like to be and who you would like to be with. So there's no limitation in the spiritual world, but still there are personalities who are like-minded. That's why we have those kinds of associations here. You like to be with like-minded persons. You like to be with your family. So those things are all there in the spiritual world, except for one difference. There, everyone has more affection for Krishna than they do for any of their family members. But here, we have more affection for our family members than we do for anyone else.
Do you think all of us do?
Excuse me?
You think all of us do?
All of us do what?
Like, have more feelings for our family than we do?
In general.
In general?
In
like,
general, that's the way it's constructed.
Okay.
Because we get born,
Oh,
and we're helpless, and then our father and mother are there, and they take care of us, and they kuchiku. Whenever we fart or barf or whatever, they're there to, take us and train us and how to do everything, to run this machine. And therefore we become very close, very attached, very
that's
intimate.
interesting. I had a vision last night. I had a headache last night. It was one of them good headaches, so like one of them awakenings, like you're going through another awakening process. Like I was in this room, and like I was like, man, where am I? But like I had a bag. I had like my bag. It's not here, but it's like a backpack, like I usually have. It was a black bag, and one thing I remember was just like putting the bag down. Then I was like sitting on this bed. It was just like. It was like on a whole nother planet, and I was like, I'm thinking about two people. I'm thinking about a good friend of mine that's in Baltimore that I mentioned earlier. He's like he's definitely a guide, definitely like an intercessor for me on this path. Because when I first started to listen to his music, everywhere I go in the dream state, he'll be like right there with me, like popping over me. I'm like, whoa, okay, this is getting interesting. So we've been building for a couple years now. So, but for some reason I thought about him. Then I thought about my grandma for some reason. Like it's just on my mind for some reason. Stella, that's her name. She passed.
So this is, yeah. They go.
Yeah.
Therefore that affection eventually goes. Even if you remember and keep a picture and everything after they go, eventually it goes. Because that's the nature of the material world. So the kinds of sensations that you're thinking about and feelings that you're having, what you really want, what all of us want, is to have those sensations and not have them go away. That's what we want. We don't want things to go away.
Okay.
We're eternal, and therefore we don't want to die. We don't want things to come and go. And yet we're in a world where everything comes and goes, whether we like it or not.
But she like popped. She popped through the door. It was like this door's open, and I was like, what? In my mind, I was like, man, she's gonna pop in here somewhere. Then, bam, she popped through the door. I was like, whoa. I was like, what's up? Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Spiritual life is pretty interesting, to say the least. To say the least.
It was pretty interesting.
Do we have anything else from cyberspace?
Just a thank you.
You're welcome, everyone. You're welcome, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to stop now. So we have a program over the temple we're going to go to. And thank you very much. All glories to the Srimad-Bhagavatam. All glories to Shukadeva Goswami for explaining all of this to us. And all glories to all the devotees of the Lord. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Hari Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari. Now you have to get up and turn the thing off. There you go. It's your service. Hari Krishna.